No. I just said you can't put a number on it. You can't put, it might be more than $2 billion. Who knows what the number is? It's massive.
Thank you.
From being almost an unknown person to becoming the trademark name of UFC, Dana has a story that must be told. He didn't just wake up one day, check his email, see a proposal, and become the president of the UFC.
I am the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Thank you. I'm sure most of you are wondering, what are you doing here? I am not a politician.
So why don't you join me while I tell you White's story from the beginning? When UFC was founded, the league itself had no influence, and in that case, the now UFC president having any fame was totally out of the question. In fact, he wasn't there when it all began. He only became the one to lead the MMA promotion in 2001. Before Dana, there was someone else who held the title of president. UFC was owned by the Semaphore Entertainment at the time. This company was headed by Bob Merowitz, entrepreneurs John Milius, Art Davies, and David Jackson, as well as the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Grandmaster Roarian Gracie. Yes, these were the names who were said to have owned the UFC before Dana took over. White, on the other hand, was just a manager for former UFC fighters like Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. But this makes me wonder about something. How did a manager become the literal president of the entire UFC? Well, that's an interesting story. While he was serving as a manager, he got to know that Merowitz, along with the other owners, were looking to sell the UFC. For how much? A mere $2 million. Yes, that's right. This massive league you see today was worth only that at the time. Now you must think that White probably had the money to buy it. But no, he didn't have it, and that's when he asked for help.
It's normal, you know, I was upset about 200 and, many other things. And, because I was upset, he was upset.
It's reported that he approached his childhood friend Lorenzo Fertitta and his brother Frank. These brothers did what he asked them to do, and they bought the UFC for $2 million. And that's when they put White as the president of the UFC. But does being a president make you the owner? Well, as per the history, Dana didn't buy the UFC, but his friend and his brother did, right?
Well, this guy's just, yeah. You stole the mic from him, but okay.
I respect my
Go ahead.
I'm a nice guy.
So how can he be the owner? Apparently, he does actually own a part of it. When the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC, they made sure that Dana was getting an undisclosed share in it. So that technically makes him a part owner of the UFC.
Listen, we've done some things over the last couple of years with the website and all kinds of other stuff, but why would I go out and block her?
Not just that. In 2021, the Endeavor Group acquired the Zuffa LLC Group, which was the company owned by the Fertitta brothers. The Endeavor Group got hands on Zuffa for over $4 billion, which ultimately made it the majority owner of the UFC as well. This means White has a smaller share in the company, but he also signed a contract in 2019 to remain the president until 2026. So yes, he isn't actually the owner of the UFC, but he has an important role in it, and he'll be there for a while. But with this, I'm a little curious about how he even entered this field. I want to talk about his own story from his childhood till today. He was born in Manchester in 1969, and his maternal family raised him. Before entering the world of combat sports, he was working almost all kinds of jobs. At the age of 17, he entered the world of boxing, and that's when he started training for the sport. Along with that, he continued his education and graduated from Herman High School in Maine in 1987. Later, he started working as a bouncer at hotels in Boston, and later on started working as a bellman at the Four Seasons. In one of his interviews, he talked about the jobs he'd worked. He stated that he'd had a lot of jobs, and the hardest job he ever did was paving. He says that this was the job that actually taught me what real work was. And after all of these jobs, he found his way into the sport that brought him where he is today. He started giving boxing lessons. To earn the bucks that he needed, he was teaching people how to box, and these classes were often attended by businessmen and housewives who were trying to stay fit. But even with that, his work was flourishing. More and more people wanted to get a slot in his classes. This was when his partner Peter Welch ventured into starting regional health clubs. He was becoming so famous that even the Boston native mobster Whitey Bulger threatened him.
It makes no sense. So when I was away on vacation, his manager texted me and said, "Can we come in next week and meet with you?" And I said, "Yes."
Apparently, Bulger tried to threaten White so that he could get $2,500 from him, but he was forced into leaving Boston and then moved to Las Vegas. He said that when he was threatened, he just hung up the call, called Delta, and booked tickets to Vegas. His entire life has been a great journey with its ups and downs, but he made it through. And today, he has turned the UFC into something no one had imagined. Looking at it, I bet that there are 1,000 reasons why UFC couldn't have ever survived if it wasn't for Dana White. For the longest time, he's served as the best ever promoter in the history of any sports. He's always there, no matter if it's a press conference, pre-fight hype video, or weigh-ins. He's the kind of promoter who doesn't just believe in his product, but he also knows the importance of things that can hype it up. He knows how to organize the best show ever. He has hyped every single game of the UFC so much that it doesn't feel like a UFC match if there isn't the hype machine present.
Whole last 3 weeks of my life was leading to this night here. The people in this country, including the media.
Not just that, he's the reason why the UFC has such a massive importance in the global markets. Before he became the UFC president, the company was literally on the verge of drowning. At that time, the UFC only held 6 events outside of the US. And people, this was throughout the 7 years of the company's existence. He has worked super hard to bring the company where it is today. Today, every year, they hold several matches in and outside of the US, and it's a really normal thing now. Since he took the reins in his hands, the UFC has landed in Australia, Germany, Canada, England, UAE, and Ireland. And with this, the UFC has also gained some of the best international stars.
How are you?
Good. This guy's turned out to be one of the best interviewers in MMA,
So yes, it is all thanks to Dana White. In short, it's safe to say that he made sure the UFC was known all around the world. If it wasn't for White, UFC wouldn't have been as visible as it is today. Throughout the past years, during the SEG's ownership of the company, none of the matches was released in recorded form, and the only way to watch an event was either by watching it live or on pay-per-view. But after Dana took over, the events were released for everyone to buy and watch.
Thing I've ever heard in my life. Okay? That is just.
Now, with that out of the way,
They were made available on home video, and they eventually also got TV deals. With this take on marketing, White proved that he has always been a true businessman, and he works with a bigger vision on hand. He was thinking big when he decided to get his hands on the UFC. He has always wanted to make MMA mainstream, and that's why he was able to make deals with Fox, Spike TV, and other TV networks. All in all, it's safe to say that the UFC and Dana White are actually synonymous with each other. If it wasn't for him, things wouldn't have been the way they are now. It was also pretty much possible that the UFC would have been abandoned long ago. But well, here we are today. And with this, it's time for me to sign off. I'll be back with more amazing videos soon. See you in the next one.